Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 3 of college football. Let's listen in to James talk a little bit about what we have in store for this weekend.
Your boy at Big Game James _36, and I'm here with Greg McGarity, and this is the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl Drive to Selection Show presented by Toyota, where each and every week we go over the state of college football as it pertains to the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl going into its 80th year, January 2nd, primetime TV here in Jacksonville, Florida. What's going on, Greg?
Not much. It's getting ready for another week of college football, week number 3.
I'm loving the season, and I always tell people, regardless of my affiliation, I'm just so grateful to be able to have football and all these different things that come with the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl, especially if you're, like me, part of the Chairman's Club, which a lot of you guys should consider if you're not there yet. Tons of events, tons of different things. I want to talk about this before we get into college football. This is my second event where we got a chance to meet the Dream Team and the Dreamers. Can you talk a little bit about the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl's relationship with them, what it is and what it means to us in the community?
Well, in affiliation with Dreams Come True locally, we're able to sponsor or have 12 young girls and boys join us every year as part of honorary Gator Bowl committee members. And we honor them in so many ways because it's an amazing group of young people that have tremendous challenges ahead of them, and some that have accomplished great feats in their life at a very early age. But we're able to honor them, we're able to present them to the community. They feel a part of our Gator Bowl committee. We outfit them in Gator Bowl attire, and this past weekend took a trip to the Swamp to watch Florida beat Samford, and all reports were that the University of Florida did a great job hosting, but our people that went along with these young people had a great time. But throughout the year, we'll honor them. We're doing things during Bowl Week where things will really pick up as far as a lot of special events with the Dream Team.
Yeah, last year, for those who follow, we got an opportunity to make one of our dreamers' dream really come through in a big way. He made ESPN, and actually he's been doing a lot of cool stuff since then. I said I wasn't going to do it anymore, but then I found another one that was really, really dope. These kids are full of energy, full of life, considering their situation. So whether you're part of the Gator Bowl committee or not, you need to check out Dreams Come True. Great organization, great young men and women that are truly inspirational in life. Some inspired play, some not inspired play, but all of it relates to us. What were some of the top games from this past weekend, and what are your thoughts? And we'll start with the SEC, and we'll start with maybe the Florida-Samford game. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I think even though the opponent was probably not as strong as the rest of their schedule, but that's a great way to break in a freshman quarterback. And I thought everyone that watched Lagway play certainly changed the dynamics of that game. But who knows, a big game in the Swamp this weekend against Texas A&M, that all eyes will be on that game. And can Texas A&M kind of rebound from the Notre Dame loss? Mm-hmm. Notre Dame, whoever thought they would have lost to Northern Illinois last weekend, but it just shows you that college football is so unpredictable. Who thought South Carolina would go to Lexington and basically blow out Kentucky? But I think a lot of eyes will be on that Texas A&M Florida game. It's 3:30 start, so it should be a lot of fun to watch.
Actually, that can segue us into something. We'll get back to football because, again, anytime you have an athletic director that's been as accomplished as you are, and as I tell people, not very many people get to, I guess it's just no better, or let's say have a legend resign and hire the start of a new legend, as you were able to do with Mark Richt, as well as Kirby Smart right now, who's changing college football. But what do you do as an athletic director when you see these kind of crazy losses or crazy games? Because, I mean, we saw Dover going at home, Alabama with Coach Dover at home versus South Florida. South Florida gave them everything that they wanted. The outcome obviously looks a lot different than what the game shows. But one of the things that I was stressing to a lot of people is this is just the way the game is. And this is what makes college football great, because games that you just don't expect happen. What would be maybe some advice that you would give if you were the Notre Dame at AD? I'll use them to Notre Dame's coach after an NIU loss.
Well, I think a lot depends on the relationship that you have with the head coach, and you've got to be fully supportive. You can't just be, middle of the road or just there only during the good times. You've got to be there during the bad times, and when you're losing or you're having some bad luck in there, you've got to be there to support and give every resource that you have possible to make it all work. Because one game doesn't make a season. Now, a lot will depend on how they bounce back and how do they do in game 3 down the road. Because even with the new structure in the college football playoff, you can have one loss, 2 losses, perhaps 3 losses. You really get into some dicey territory, but you have very little margin of error. But as an athletic director, you have to support the program as best you can and give it all your effort to try to make it work.
Gotcha. So we talked about a couple games. Georgia had a cupcake. A lot of, like we talked about last time, not a lot of truly exciting games, but going over to the ACC in a game that we'll talk about a little bit more because as it relates to the Gator Bowl, but also in the area, a lot of Miami fans here. Miami getting that feeling that they get this time of year, every year for the last 23, that we're back. But you did see Cam Ward continue to put himself on the national stage and show that he's a dynamic quarterback. What were your thoughts about that FAMU versus Miami game? Because again, a cupcake, but you were able to see some things that came to light.
Well, when you play those games, you want to take care of business. You don't want to keep the school in the game very long, because the more they believe they can win the game and be competitive with you, the tougher it becomes. So going in there and taking care of business, like you saw a lot of teams do when they're playing an opponent that's overmatched. You saw a lot of that in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Week 2, you'll see some this week too, because there's not a lot of intra-conference play this week. But you go in there, you take care of business, and hopefully you can play a lot of young men that have an opportunity to play after working so hard throughout the season.
So we did see some matchups that we know we'll never see again, or we won't see them this year or probably next year. Cal goes to Auburn and upsets them. What does this kind of bring to the Gator Bowl? Because nobody thought Cal was any good. At least I did. I do have a really, really good I'm sorry, Brian Johnson, their strength and conditioning coach. I grew up with him, and he played at LSU. But Cal's coming down and making that kind of win. Is that a statement win? Is that something that we should be looking at here in the Gator Bowl as a potential team?
Probably not Cal this year, because they're a West Coast team and there's some bowl affiliations that keeps them on the West Coast. I think what it does, it reflects on Auburn.
Okay.
Fewer opportunities now. You lose those chances to win the game and become bowl eligible. We were talking about it in our staff meeting this morning that we need all SEC teams and ACC teams to win 6 games. That's hard to do when you're knocking each other off, bumping heads every week, but we need as many teams to be eligible, because, for instance, in the SEC, if you have 6 teams go up or 5 teams go up, that lessens the pool for our game. So we're wanting to see as many SEC teams get 6 wins and hopefully not 5 or 6 teams in the college football playoff.
Which we kind of do have a little, we'll have a preview of that here in a second. But any other notable games that kind of that were interesting?
No, I think the Notre Dame game kind of shocked everyone, and to see it just shows you, and you know this better than anyone, having been a player, is that if you don't perform at your highest level every week, you're not guaranteed to win.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think you can just show up and win because of the sticker on your helmet or the team, doesn't work out all that time. So it just shows you better be at your best every week, and it doesn't guarantee you will win, but I promise you, if you're not at your best, your chances of losing grow tremendously.
Yeah, I remember 2005, playing that big game week 1 isn't all, or week 0, whatever, isn't all it's cracked up to be, because you spend your entire offseason, it's like a bowl game. You're focused. Now, when in 2005, we hadn't beat Miami in, I believe, 5 tries. All the games were close. We literally, our whole focus, Miami, beat Miami, beat Miami,
Yeah.
beat Miami, beat Miami. Then we beat Miami. And then we're like, what do we do now? And we played Citadel.
Right.
And Citadel gave us everything that we wanted for a half.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the game we ended up scoring 60 points, but still a lot of fans don't understand like that. You can have a letdown and that doesn't necessarily reflect who you are as a team or your talent level. Sometimes it's just you exhausted a lot of energy in focusing on that one opponent. Again, treating it more like a bowl game than you are like a season. The season is 12 games. Um, 13 if you win your conference. If you're lucky, what is it, 16 games now? That's a long season.
Possibly 17.
Jeez, that's a long season. Let's talk about this week in regards to the SEC. What are some matchups that are coming up, and what should we be looking for?
Well, LSU starts the day off at South Carolina. South Carolina, obviously they struggled in week one. They beat ODU, but very impressive win at Kentucky. So LSU coming in there. ESPN Game Day is going to be in Columbia. That place is going to be on fire. And then, as we mentioned, Texas A&M at Florida at the 3:30 spot. And then Georgia travels to Kentucky for the night game. And I'm sure Mark Stoops will have that team prepared. Anytime you get embarrassed at home, you want to prove that was not a normal situation. So I expect that to be a competitive game. And then in the ACC, you've got Memphis at FSU. I think FSU needs to be careful. Memphis can put some points on the board, and they're very competitive. BC is at Missouri. That's one of the few crossover games, and Ole Miss travels to Wake Forest. So I'm sure the SEC will be favored in both those games, but interesting matchups. And then Notre Dame, how will they rebound at Purdue? So those are games, and the other games there are a lot of non-conference opponents among SEC and SEC foes this weekend. So really picks up next weekend was a lot of intra-conference play.
Now, something I've noticed, and this might have been all the time. I pay more attention now that I feel like I'm a part of the Gator Bowl, and I actually do enjoy the bowl, and I enjoy football. Have we had this much ACC, SEC crossover games typically? Because it just feels like the first couple of weeks of the season, we're getting a lot of these premier matchups.
No, I think it's rare. I think Georgia and Clemson have played regularly, and you see at the end of the season with a lot of in-state rivalries, but I can't remember the last time Ole Miss has traveled into ACC territory. BC, Missouri, I don't think they've ever played before, but I think a little bit is picking up. NC State, Tennessee was, that game was, certainly lopsided, but I think the more you can do that, the better off it is, because your strength of schedule is going to be important now once you get past the first 6 or 7 teams in the football, college football playoff.
And then also, especially for the bragging rights of the conference, even though some of these wins, we've had some teams in the ACC beat some teams in the SEC that I wouldn't think. Obviously, Cal versus Auburn. I would have never thought Vanderbilt would have beat Virginia Tech, which is crazy as well. But it's kind of cool considering the landscape of how college football is going. I think that keeps the Power Four relevant, even though we probably are shifting to more of a Pangea, a Power Two. It's inevitable. But all right, so we got those games. What are we looking at right now as far as the college football playoff? Who are the teams in the ACC that you believe can in the college football playoff and we won't be able to pick for the Gator Bowl? And who are the teams in the SEC that you believe are eligible for the college football playoff?
Well, we had some fun with it this week. We just took the AP poll and just used that as an assumption that that's the way the college football playoff, maybe the first ranking will be. And, right now you had 6 SEC teams play up. And you also have to remember, you have to have a spot for your group of 5, which right now would be Northern Illinois, and your Big 12 champion, which right now is in the rankings would be Oklahoma State, even though they aren't in the top 12. So as you go through the season, you're going to see some interesting dynamics. Right now, Miami's in there. Clemson certainly got back on track against Appy State. So it just depends on who runs the table, who takes the conference championship, because let's just say that Miami plays in the championship game and they go undefeated and they get upset in that championship game with a team with 2 losses. Well, the champion of the ACC is going to automatically get one of those spots. Well, Miami's got to be in there too, due to their record. So a lot of things play out, but certainly in the past we talked about 4 teams, and now obviously 12 teams. That's going to add to the aura and the magnificent situations that could develop as you get into week 10 and 11 in the season, because some of these teams in the SEC are going to knock each other off.
Right.
So it'll really be interesting to play, and once we get the college football playoff top 12, then we can really start to put things together. But for now, we play the game with the AV poll, and it's kind of interesting to see how things match up right now.
Yeah, it's I'm thinking that a lot of people believe the blowouts will happen in the first games. I don't think so. I just think when you're measuring these conference champions, it's not that they're not good.
Right.
It's just that Texas is really good. Georgia's really good. Alabama historically really good. Dover's a good coach. Lane Kiffin offensively is going to push any defensive coordinator's buttons. Those are guys that are going to have to host a game or possibly even travel to another place that you'll have to see after your bye week, and it's just Oklahoma State just don't got the horses for a lot of these guys. And NIU Oregon is not going to be not going to be optimal for NIU. But again, I love the matchups that we probably would never normally see. So when people are afraid of the change, well, the change is going to give us things and geographies that we would never normally see. I mean, in a payday, imagine Northern Illinois hosting a college football playoff game. What it's going to do for that city, for their recruiting. I got people asking about Northern Illinois that never even asked about them. I only remember them because when I played, there was I think it was Byron the Burner Turner. He was a running back. And he had a hot sauce for his Heisman campaign. And then their quarterback talked trash before Florida State played in the Orange Bowl, and it didn't end well for him. So, what are we thinking about for the Gator Bowl this early? What would be some of the what are some of the things that the pundits are talking about, or who we want anybody, but who would we like?
Well, I think we like everyone right now, and the 10 pundits that we follow. Heck, I'd take any one of those 10 matchups right now because they are all attractive. And so we'll see how things play out. But, once you get to where teams have 4 or 5 losses, you'll see teams drop out. And so that will play itself out probably week 7 or 8. You'll start to have a better idea of who may be in contention or, unfortunately, who may be out of contention at that point in time.
Let's remind people while we have them, what are things that disqualify people for the Gator Bowl?
Well, we've kind of refined things a bit, James, because in the SEC, it's not written in stone that a team can't come back to play. So we're going to keep Kentucky and we're going to keep South Carolina in the mix right now. Now, on the ACC side is very prescriptive to where teams cannot repeat that played last year. So Clemson would not be eligible, but Notre Dame, and really it's within this contractual language that allows Notre Dame to kind of be back in the pool, even though they were here 2 years ago. So really the only disqualifiers we're keeping right now are Clemson and Stanford and Cal, because the West Coast schools have an agreement with other bowls and other conferences to populate those bowls that the Pac-12 used to populate. Mm-hmm. So we're just excluding 3 teams now. And in the SEC side, I know that Kentucky would not want to come back here again, but depending on how many teams are eligible, you may see some repeat performances. So we're just excluding Clemson, Cal, and Stanford at this time.
And rematches.
Correct.
So we can't get that Florida-Miami rematch again.
Right.
And previews. We cannot get Florida State, Alabama from next year. So on that note, we appreciate everybody for joining us. Each and every week, me and Greg McGarity will be here to break down the previous weekend of college football and give a preview of the next weekend of college football as it relates to the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl here on the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl Drive to Selection Show presented by Toyota. I'm Big Game James _36. Appreciate you guys for chopping it up with us. We'll see you next time.
Solo this week for the Off the Field update. Today we want to talk to you about our partnership with Dreams Come True. Many of you know the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl Dream Team. We partnered with them about 7 or 8 years ago to create this magical dream team where we bring 12 kids together every single year. They become a team together, their families get to know each other, and we have so many fun experiences throughout the year. This past Saturday, we headed to Gainesville with the Dream Team to watch the UF versus Stanford game. We had a fabulous time. The rain held off. And it's a really fun opportunity for both the kids on the team, the siblings, the parents to all get to know one another and just have a fun day. So we enjoyed that. I think we're going to put some photos or videos here for you just to see a little bit of the day. And then we also want to talk to you about Dreams Come True. They've been a wonderful partner of ours, and their annual fundraiser is a 5K run. So it is coming up Saturday, September 21st, and we have a team. So we would love any of you runners or walkers to join our team. Sign up for the 5K. We look forward to having a great morning with all of the dreamers and their families and supporters. Like I said, this is such a great fundraiser for them. They're doing amazing things with these dreams. So we encourage you to either sign up for the race or make a donation by clicking below and learning more about that opportunity. Have a good one.